Paul at North Tech here today, and today we're going to do a demo video for you to show you the different uncoupling membranes that we use underneath tile projects. And these uncoupling membranes are what we believe to be the two best out there. So the first one I'm going to show you, it's called Schluter Ditra mat, and it's a plastic mat with a felt backing on the back, and it has these little squares in it for the mortar to settle into also when you're spreading the thin set on. So the first step you're going to do when you're putting this down, it's really easy to work with. It comes in a roll. You can roll it out on your floor, on your wood base that you're working on. And what you would do is cut it. It cuts with a basic utility knife or pair of scissors. So it makes life really easy. You can actually cut all the Ditra mat down first, roll up each length, and then go back, mix mortar, and lay it. And I'll show you here how you install it. And we'll show you also how tile goes on top of it. So what you want to do first is obviously cut it and get it ready to install. Then what you'll do, you'll make sure your surface is nice and clean, you know, no dust and dirt on the surface that you're applying it to. And then what you'll do is you'll mix up your thin set, and I'll show you what I mean here. So what you want to do, whenever you're using a thin set mortar for one of these uncoupling membranes or for any project, make sure you're using the right product for your application. So with Schluter, there are certain mortars that they have their own, and we use a product called Kiesel, which is a German product, a high quality product that is approved for use on Schluter products. It's also approved for use on the uncoupling membranes. So here, what I did is I just mixed up my mortar and I let it slate, and now I'm just spinning it up again. Okay, and it's basically ready to go. And all you're going to do now is apply the mortar to the surface that you're going to stick the Ditra mat to. And what you're going to use for that is a 1/4 by 1/4 inch notch trowel that I'm holding here in my hand. Now this is a pro trowel that a pro would use. They also have less expensive ones. If you're a DIY person, that do it yourself, you can buy a much cheaper version that'll work fine for you also. So I'm going to apply some of the mortar to the panel here. Oh, it's nice and smooth and creamy, and you can see how creamy this stuff is. We really like this mortar. This is actually the one we're trying here right now is a new mortar that they just came out with. And I'll tell you something, just by me spreading it, it's really nice to work with, and I can actually feel it sticking to the board. Wow. This is awesome, Jeff. So all I'm doing here is I'm spreading this out. And you know, I'll comb it to even it out a little bit. Okay, maybe a little bit more there. Just to make sure we got enough on there. There we go. So right there, what you're seeing is the mortar. I've installed it onto the surface. I've combed it relatively even. And now what I'm going to do is install the Ditra mat. Okay? Now the Ditra mat has that white pad on the bottom. So what's going to happen is you're going to lay the Ditra mat down, or in every case you're actually going to roll it out. okay? And what'll happen is, I'm just gonna use this nice clean trowel to press it down, but you can use a piece of 2x4. If you have a small piece of 2x4, you can actually push it down into the mortar. And another thing that you'll notice is when I push it down, it might be a little difficult to see here, but the squares will actually darken a little bit. So what I've done there is I pressed that white pad on the bottom into the mortar. And I'll show you when it's right how it looks like. So I'm going to lift this up. There you go. That white pad on the bottom, like here I don't have any because I didn't spread the mortar all the way, but here it's completely saturated with mortar. You don't want anything showing. Done. If you're doing it, you can just double check your work. Press it back into place. You're good to go. So that is the Ditra mat underlay installed. Really simple. In the past, we used to use a lot of other things like wire mesh with mortar and whatnot. And there was also cement board that we used to use. But they're cumbersome to carry around, and they're really a lot more work than what is necessary. This here speeds up the process, and you end up with a nicer job, cleaner job. You know, so you're not banging things against a wall, you're not cutting your hands with wire mesh. This is really simple to work with. So that's the first product I'm showing you. And now what we'll do is we'll move on to the next product, which is the Yoka mat, and we'll show you that in a moment. Okay, now that we've completed the installation of the Schluter Ditra mat uncoupling membrane, a couple things I wanted to mention before we move on to the Okaquiet membrane, and I demo that. One thing is that when you're using, whether it's the Ditra or the uncoupling membrane from Kiesel, the Yoka, you want to make sure that you follow the proper building codes for the product. So it's going onto the proper surface so that you meet warranty requirements for the product too, and so that the product performs as it should. Now remember, these things work very well, but they don't do miracles, okay? So you need to follow the proper building codes and whatnot that the product suggests. Like for example, the Ditra mat, you know, you'll need something like 5/8 exterior grade plywood on 16-inch center joists. That's one example, okay? So just make sure you follow the proper building codes before you use the product, and it'll work great for you. So now, another thing I forgot to mention about the Ditra is that when you're using it, a lot of times, you know, you're cutting with the scissors or with your knife, and you have pieces left over, you know, small chunks or pieces. You can still use them. The Ditra just goes, you know, right next to each other. So you can fill in spots. You can use all that waste that you thought you might have to throw away. It's still good to use, okay? So that's basically it for that. What I'm gonna do is move on to the Yoka now, which is a new product that we're trying that we're pretty excited about because it's made with 100% recycled materials. And it also provides sound deadening, which is kind of cool, along with the, you know, preventing your towel from cracking and whatnot. So we're excited about this, and I'm going to do a little demo now showing how this goes down. So this stuff here is very easy to cut again. You use a utility knife with a straight edge, and you can cut it however you want. It comes in sheets of different sizes. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to spread my mortar down on the board, just like I did for the Ditra mat, and trying not to make a mess all over the place. So here we go. This mortar, I am really, really impressed with this mortar on how it feels. It's awesome. This mortar is supposed to give a lot more coverage. And we're testing that right now. But I will tell you that the feel of the mortar is amazing. Like when you comb it, you feel it stick, which is a definite confidence builder when you're putting tile down or underlay. So here we go. Again, I'm doing the same thing I did with the Ditra mat. Right? Quarter by quarter trowel. And I'm just combing it into place. There we go. Now, we're gonna put it down. And let's see what we got. And excuse me if I didn't get it everywhere, but that's okay. So we lay it down. And again, let me grab the trowel. We'll press it down. What's nice about this Yoka that I'm noticing right now, just from being a tile setter and having done this for a while, is it's soft. And you know, for a tile setter that is on his knees all the time, or a do-it-yourselfer, it's pretty comfortable. So it'll save you a little bit on your knees. Mind you, you know, you can get knee pads and whatnot, but it is a little softer to walk on and to work on, which I like. So there you go. So we've put that down. Now, I'll do the same thing. I'll just lift up a little corner, we can take a look. Oh yeah. This is the first time I put this down, okay, people? Look at that. That mortar's awesome. What's the name of that mortar again?
Servoflex 5.
Well, I'm sold. Servoflex 5 is, we're bringing it in. So, there's that. We've installed that. And also this stuff here, if you have pieces, you can use them also, you know, to fill in here and there for small areas. So it's a pretty neat product, actually. I like it a lot. So that completes, other than one other thing I need to mention. I've installed this on top of a piece of plywood. The plywood was clean, okay? Now, if you have a substrate that you're not quite sure about, maybe it needs, you need to clean it, or maybe there's some dirt on it and you've cleaned it really well, but you're not quite sure. What you can do if you want that little extra bond is you can buy a primer. And you know, we use a Kiesel primer, and you can mix it with some water and you roll it onto the substrate and you leave it dry. Usually you do a couple of coats, really easy to do. And it provides a real strong bond for the thin set underneath. So if you have any concerns about that, that's one step that you can do that adds some more confidence to the installation. That's it for that right now, and we'll be back with a tile install. Now we're going to show the tile going on top of the substrate and how it should be done, okay? So we've got the Ditra over here that we put in, and we've got the Yoka over here that we've put in. We've mortared them down. They're ready for tile. And what I'm going to show you here is I'm going to show you how to properly put the tile in, and how to apply the mortar, and to also ensure, back butter each tile to ensure that it's going to bond completely. The other thing we're going to demo here are clips and wedges. We use them all the time. We recommend them all the time to everybody, simply because nobody's perfect and no surface is perfect. And when you use these, especially with the larger format tiles that are out now, these keep things nice and flat. So you eliminate lippage on your floor when you're putting it in. They also provide a grout joint to keep all your joints nice and even. We use a system called Perfect Level, which is what we prefer. They work really well. The clips snap really easy. A few little tricks I'm going to show you so you don't have a problem with that. But there are many systems out there, and you need to choose the one that you like. So I'm just going to put these here for now. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to spread the mortar onto the surface. And again, in this case, I'm using the same mortar that I installed the Ditra with, or the Yoka with. And I'm very impressed with it at this point. So this mortar here, is very sticky. I really like it. Let me just make sure I don't spill all over the place here. And what you're gonna do, see, when you're spreading on the Ditra, you're gonna notice that you're using more mortar because you're also filling in the cubes underneath, the little squares. So you want to make sure they're filled in well. And you can use the flat side of the trowel first to press in the mortar like I'm doing here. And it fills in everything really well. So you want to make sure you get the mortar in those squares, which I'm doing here. Again, I'm not going everywhere because this is a demo, but obviously you're going to fill everything in. You get some more mortar. Okay. Let's get this done. Then I'll show you how to properly put the tile on. And in another video, not this one, but in another video, stay tuned because I got a little trick for you on how to understand what back buttering does. It was taught to me by my father and my uncle. So, here we go. So I'm gonna just do this, okay? Then what you're gonna do is I'll need some more mortar on here, which I'll grab in a moment. Okay, so now one thing with Ditra is, you don't have to do this. I like to do this. Because it has the squares, you don't necessarily have to, how can I say, you can install the tile immediately, all in one step, just like that. So there's the mortar spread on the Ditra, okay? What I like to do with the Ditra sometimes is if the floor is not perfect, I will let the Ditra dry, and the next day I'll mix up some mortar, the thin set like this, and I will spread it and fill the squares in. And if there's a low spot in the floor somewhere, I can straighten it out a little bit. Then that's before I even put the tile on. But in this case, you can do it like this too. It works really well. And now what I'm going to do is show you to properly put the tile on there with the clips. So over here I have just a basic 12 by 24 porcelain. And what I'm going to do is grab a little bit of mortar, really simple. And you notice I'm using the flat side of the trowel. And I'm buttering the back. So you notice the tile has little voids in it, right? Well, if you don't ever want your tile to break on the floor or have a hollow spot, this is the way you do it. You fill all that in. Now, we've already done this, but one step you might want to do before you do this is grab a damp sponge and wipe the back of the tile off, because what happens, the back of the tile, when they're made in the factory, they roll on conveyors and there's a chalky substance that's on the back of the towel so that they don't stick. So that can sometimes, you know, stop the towel from adhering. So if you wipe that off first with a damp sponge, then apply your mortar, you're good to go. So here's one tile going down, right? Okay. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this little tool here, okay? Which is, like, I haven't really pressed the tile down yet. And the reason is I'm going to install these first, okay? So what I'm gonna do is clean the edge away so that I don't get mortar on the clip all the way up. So that the clip, well, I'll show you, the clip will break. So what'll happen is you install your clips, like so, okay? And now I'm ready to install the next tile. And what am I gonna do? I'm gonna butter this one too. Let me go here. Again, I don't make a mess. So I'm doing the exact same thing to this towel. I'm just using you could use a little table or I'm using a pail to support the tile. And all I'm doing here is again coating the back of the tile to fill in the voids. And that's back buttering. I'm gonna take this tile, I'm gonna place it against the other clips, and I'm gonna drop it into place. Now, you can use a mallet for this, a rubber mallet if you'd like. It works really well. I'm old school, so I'll use my hands, okay? So right now, before I put these wedges in, I'm gonna give them a tap, okay? All right. So, the tiles are in. You'll notice that the clips have left the grout joint for the top. All right? Those clips work great because they keep everything nice and straight too. And so you can also press it into place with your hands. Slide it. You can see there's mortar coming up through the joint. That's not a bad thing. That means it's really grabbing underneath. So now, the wedge. Now, what do the wedges do? Well, if you have a surface that's not flat and your tiles are off level, the wedge does this. It will level it up. And this is also why you need to use a lot of mortar and you need to back butter the tile so that you don't remove it from the mortar and have a hollow spot. So here's one wedge. And I'm using my fingers. That's how easy it is. And here's another one. Done. And what you do is just have a sponge and water ready. You know, if you get any residue of thin set anywhere, you can wipe it off. For example, here I have a little bit of mortar coming up the joint. Scrape it out. Keep yourself clean as you go. Makes life easy. You're not scraping that mortar out the next day or a few days later when you have to grout. You know, it's nice and soft right now. So that is tile on top of the Ditra. We'll stop there for a moment and I'll come back and go over the Yoka. And now we're going to do the tile demo on top of the Yoka uncoupling membrane. This here, what's neat about this, like I said earlier, is it's nice and soft, a nice surface to work on if you're tiling. And the other thing is, and Ditra's awesome, what I like about this too is that there's no squares to fill in. So potentially you're going to use less mortar when you're installing the tile. So there's a little bit of a saving with that. So I'm gonna go ahead here and do the exact same thing on this side and show you again, and let's see how it goes. So let me spread some mortar to begin. Get some on there. Just take me a minute. I'm trying not to make a mess all over the place, which I try to work as clean as I can. So what I'm gonna do now is the same thing. And again, the quarter by 3/8 trowel, boy, this is really nice to work on. I was impressed how it went down, and I'm impressed how easy it is to spread the mortar on and get it ready for tile. I'm excited. Don't mind me, I get excited about tile things. It's in my blood. But anyways, here we go. Oh, I love this. So there's that. Now, let's do this again. We're gonna butter the tile. So grab a little bit more thin set. Okay. Over. All right. Flat side of the trowel. Fill in the void. Again, it's maybe hard to get every single void, but let me tell you, in a video that I'll show you later on, when I show you what my dad and my uncle taught me, you'll be sold as to why you should do it. And if you have an installer doing it for you, this is the way you want it done. I'm gonna drop it down. There's one tile. Let's grab the other one. Before I put the other one down, I'm just gonna clean the edge here. Put my clips in. Look how easy that is. Okay, make sure they're pressed all the way in against the edge of the tile, okay? So that's that. Now we're gonna butter this side. Clean off the side of the trowel a bit here, or the pail. You know, it's gonna take you a little bit longer to do this, to do it this way. There's a lot of people out there that just lay them on the thin set and pound them in without doing this. But for the little bit of extra time that it takes, you're gonna have a job that lasts forever. So rather than have to chip away a broken tile and try and make it look right, because it never does after, do it right the first time. A little bit more time at first, but saves you time in the end. We'll drop this one in. There we go. All right. So now, I'm just gonna give them a little pound with my hand. Again, a lot of people use a mallet, which is fine. Okay, and you can also twist it into place, which works really well also. So I got that done. Here go the wedges. Now another thing to keep in mind when you're using these wedges, okay, so I press them in as far as they're gonna go. But what happens is if you don't have something solid on one end, okay, and you're pressing the wedges in, they can sometimes, that joint can widen, okay? With you not even noticing, it can widen. So what you wanna do, you notice I'm pressing this in, but it can push the towel away a little. So just give it a pound back. Make sure it's nice and tight. Again, mortar coming up through the joint, not a bad thing. Clean it out, make sure it's nice and clean so you're not scraping it out the next day. And that's it. That went really well. I actually like both systems. So that's it for both of these systems. I hope this video helps you understand both, and you can choose whichever you like. Thanks.